In 2017, when the Tax Cut and Jobs Act was passed, in order to make the math work on the bill, one of the changes that was implemented was a start in 2022 requiring taxpayers to capitalize both domestic and foreign research and development expenditures. At the point that was passed, no one thought they were serious about actually doing this. And I can almost distinctly remember someone questioning some congressional leaders who said, oh, we'll just pass something later in order to eliminate that. Lo and behold, 2022 came along, and that provision was still in place and stayed in place for 22, 23, and 2024, requiring taxpayers to capitalize any research and development expenditures. In 2025, with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, this was changed significantly when any previously capitalized domestic research and development expenditures can now be either deducted on an amended return for years 22, 23, and 24 for certain small business taxpayers, or deducted in 2026, the next filed return, either over 1 or 2 years. However, there is still the requirement to capitalize foreign research and development expenditures, which was not in place prior to the 2022 law change. So while the R&D capitalization has been repealed in some ways, the foreign component does still exist, and we still need to capitalize and amortize those over 15 years. One of the things that I think a lot of people had trouble wrapping their head around during this was any early stage company, your life sciences, your technology, ones that are R&D oriented would often think when we would inquire about these things that the more they could give us, the better. Because once upon a time, the research and development code section was written to try to cast as wide of a net as possible to encourage this. And the reason that people would answer this was they were thinking we were going to be able to increase their R&D credit as a result of this, which was not the case necessarily. Throughout these years, the research and development tax credit didn't materially change all that much. There was a change that was somewhat technical in relation to the deduction for some of the credit that existed for the years 22, 23, 24, which kind of made an interesting loophole to tax nerds like me. But overall, the R&D credit itself wasn't changed, but you had this capitalization provision, which was confusing people thinking, oh, let me try to put more and more into this R&D stuff when I'm asking this question, not realizing that nothing changed on the core R&D credit we always did, but rather this was just for capitalization purposes for domestic and foreign. Now, without this domestic capitalization, we should hopefully see a return to a status quo, and equally, any taxpayers who were negatively impacted in 22, 23, 24 will either be able to take the benefits now, which for many of them is probably the fastest way to monetize this change, or we're able to amend the returns depending on their specific circumstances.